Hello and welcome again to another edition of TheThugNation.com. The Thug Nation. We're going to talk today about the government program called PRISM. People say, what's PRISM? Well, PRISM is the program that they use to widely spy upon everybody. And what they do, they go to different companies and they gather information. They gather data. For what? Because we want to make sure, the government's saying, we want to make sure that you're not colluding with the enemy. You're not colluding with Al-Qaeda. So they went out and they supposedly solicited companies for information. And what's been on the news is that a lot of these companies say, hey, we're not going to give up this information. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. Well, now reports at this surface that the government has paid millions to these companies for this information. So let me get this straight here. Because this information didn't come out in the initial news feeds, news wires about companies being paid. And the companies, they didn't divulge that information also. But now you're discovering that a lot of these companies, Verizon, AT&T, all these different companies, they've been paid for your information. You know, there was a rapper who said a famous quote. He said, it's all about money, ain't a damn thing funny. You gotta have a con in this land of milk and honey. And it appears that the American people are getting conned. It appears that our government is conning us. And the companies are getting the honey by just getting paid. And I had to understand why such information gathering. People, you need to ask yourself, what is the end game? What is the purpose? How in the world can you ever think that with all these internet emails and phone calls and heck, they probably got your pictures off your phone, whatever, with all this information, who can sit there and go through it all? Is it even possible? You know, in Utah, they're building a huge center out there just for gathering information. In another part of the country, the NSA, they're building a huge center just for gathering information on the American people. I'm baffled because before Al-Qaeda was the enemy, but the actual Homeland Security documents that say the American people are the enemy. Christians are the enemy. Returning soldiers from the wars are enemy. And let me say something about this real quick, because I have to say it. Our country takes young men and women, different ethnicities, and we ship them over to these other countries to fight a war. And when their head comes back to the United States because they've been messed up mentally and physically, now all of a sudden they're the enemy? You've got to be kidding me. Now all of a sudden the American people are the enemy. Grandma's the enemy. Grandma gets felt up at the airport. She's the enemy. Now TSA, they want to do sporting events. They want to stop you on the side of the road. You know, if you're in New York, they have what they call stop and frisk. So now you can't walk down the road. You know, they stop and frisk you. You got to be kidding me. Hell, it make you not want to go anywhere. But hell, if you stay in your house, they're going to monitor that also. But I digress. So the government has this PRISM thing going on. And they're going to these different companies, and they're forcing companies basically to give up the information. You know, you will give us the information or we're going to do other things, you know, because the government, what they do, they have other tactics that they use or other threatening things that they do, you know, that they don't put on the news because, you know, of course, they control the news media also. So they decide what's going to happen and what's not going to happen with your information. And I guess people just don't ask the question. And when I watch the news, they don't say anything about the information being gathered. And I'm going to say this right here for all my church people. Not one time, and I'm not saying it hadn't happened. Not one time have I heard a preacher mentioning this right here. Not one time have I heard a preacher saying, hey, you know what? Hey, congregation, hey, I need you to be aware that they're doing this in your home. Hey, congregation, I need you to be aware that they're gathering your information. I don't think there's some preachers out there doing that. I would wish that they were. And if you listen to this YouTube video, certainly put a comment down there, send an email. But I don't think it's happening. But in thousands of churches on Sunday morning, they'll preach, our people perish for lack of knowledge. You know, if you listen to Fox News, they say, we report, you decide. Well, if they don't report, how can you decide? So, PRISM. You know, the program shouldn't be called PRISM. It should be called prison. Because that's what you're in right now. You know, Alex Jones, the guy in charge of InfoWars, he has what they call Prison Planet. You know, and theoretically, you know, he must have been ahead of his time when he came up with that, because certainly we are in a prison planet. We are in a prison planet all day long. Some of you are in your own little fiefdoms, but theoretically we're all in the what do you call it, the Matrix. You know, that movie was ahead of its time also because, you know, if you look around, that's what you're in right now. You can't escape. You can't escape at home. You can't do anything to escape it. I tell you, it's a sad day here in Thug Nation, the United States, because that's what we are, Thug Nation. Used to be a great nation. Used to be a great nation. And this nation's fallen. Why? Don't know. There's many reasons. But when the government seeks to have this much information on you and track you, you know, you know, they don't have to put the mark of the beast on you because you carry it around when you have a cell phone. They don't have to do that now. You know, when you got a credit card, they can check everything you buy, what you bought, how much of it did you buy. Did you go to the sex shop? Did you buy some sex toys? Or whatever you got. Did you get an apple versus an orange? Did you get a green pair of pants versus a blue pair of pants? You have no privacy. Your prison program, as the government calls it, is really a prison program. You know, it's sad because the people in prison have more privacy than the people outside of prison. That's insane. The people in prison have more privacy than the people in their own homes. Think about that. And again, the things I say on this radio broadcast, don't take it as the truth. Go out there and discover the truth for yourself. Check what I'm saying. Do your homework. Don't perish for lack of knowledge. And if you're listening to this broadcast, you can't say, well, nobody ever told me. Well, I'm telling you now, so you know. But go out there on your own and discover what is the truth. Not the shallow truth, but what's the deep root cause of some of these things. And you'll understand around the world, the root cause of some of the issues that we face today, the United States is right there at the root. Again, this is Ed Walters for The Thug Nation, TheThugNation.com.